I am Usha Pathak. Elders, please accept my respect and love to youngers. We have discussed verb and its classification in part 1 and in some detail in part 2 of verb. Now in part 3 we will discuss auxiliary verb, auxiliary and principal, number and person. Auxiliary verb. There are 6 auxiliary verbs as he, will, shall, may, have, and do. No transitive or intransitive verb can be conjugated without them, except in two tenses, the present and past indefinite. Have, we are always followed by participles. The other auxiliary are always followed by infinitives. The infinitive that follow all the auxiliary except be and have might be passed as the object to the auxiliary verb going before. Thus, in I shall go, go is the object to the verb shall. This all events is the way in which the future tense come into existence. Nevertheless, we cannot consider the verb shall to be an ordinary transitive. We must still call it an auxiliary for two reasons. Because it helps to form a tense, because it forgoes its own meaning for an auxiliary purpose. Has, when it is not an auxiliary, is a full transitive verb signifying possesses. We cannot, however, parse it as a transitive. In he has gone, present perfect tense. Auxiliary verbs help not only principal verbs but one another, as I shall have been going. Here, three auxiliary combine to form a single tense. Shall is followed by an infinitive. Have is followed by a participle been. The last auxiliary been is then followed as per rule by a principal going. Can, ought, and must, though defective, are principal verbs. Late is also a principal verb. They are not auxiliary because they do not help to form any tense, mood, or voice, and they do not discard their meaning as national verbs for auxiliary purposes. The infinitive that their object, as in the case of shall, will, may, do. Auxiliary and principal. The same verb may be auxiliary at one time and a principal at another. Have, I had a fine horse, principal. I had gone away, auxiliary. Be, the earth is exist. A horse is a quadruped, principal. He was going. He is loved, auxiliary. Shall, you shall leave the horse, principal. I shall leave the horse, auxiliary. Will, I will go today, principal. You will go today, auxiliary. May I go, principal. He works that he may leave, auxiliary. Do, You did that work well, principal. You did indeed work hard, auxiliary. B. As a principal verb has two uses, as there are some who deny this complete predication. This coat is of many colors, incomplete predication. An auxiliary. It helps to form all tenses in passive verbs and all continuous tenses in active ones. Have as a principal verb denotes possession. I have a watch as an auxiliary. It helps to form all the perfect tenses in all the moods, active and passive, of all verbs, transitive and intransitive. Shall, as a principal verb, denotes command, so denotes duty. Thou shalt not steal. He should do it at once. As an auxiliary, shall helps to form the first person future indicative and should do form any person in the subjunctive mode. He worked hard lest he should fail. Will as a principal verb denotes intention and would denotes habit. As I will never do such a thing again. Intention. The dog would come every day to the door. Habit. As an auxiliary, will help to form the second and third person, future, indicative, and would to form the same person of the subjunctive. May, might, as a principal verb, denotes permission or possibility. As you may go now, permission. It may be true, possibility. As an auxiliary, may expresses a wish and may and might expresses a purpose. Both in the subjunctive mode, do and did are used generally and auxiliaries. Do is also used as a proverb, a substitute verb, and in this capacity, it saves the repetition of some principal verb going before. As I awoke at 6 a.m. and so did you. Now, number and person. The number and person of a finite verb depend upon the number of its subject. Number. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular, as rain is falling. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural, as raindrops are falling. Person. If the subject is in the first person, as I love, we come. If the subject is in the second, the verb must be in the second person. Thou lovest, you come. If the subject is in the third person, the verb must be in the third person, as he loves, the teacher has come. This is called the rule of concord or agreement between the verb and the subject. A finite verb must be in the same number and person as its subject. The person and number of a verb are those modifications in which it agrees with its subject or nominative. In each number, there are 3 persons, and in each person, 2 numbers, thus first person in singular number. I love, first person in plural number. We love second person in singular number. Thou lovest second person in plural number. You love third person in singular number. He loves third person in plural number. They love. Where the verb is varied, the second person singular, thou, used to be regularly formed by adding st or est to the first person. Thou is now fashionably changed to you, and there is no change in the form of the verb. And the third person singular in like manner by adding sesh, thou seest, he sees, I give, thou givest, he gives, I go, thou goest, he goes. Where the verb is not varied to denote its person and number, these properties are inferred from its subject or nominative as if I love, if thou love, if he love, if we love, if you love, if they love. It is considered a principle of universal grammar that a finite verb must agree with its subject or nominative in person and number. Upon this principle, we ascribe to every such verb the person and number of the nominative word, whether the verb itself be literally modified by the relation or not. The English verb in some of its parts varies its termination to distinguish or agree with the different person and number. The change is, however, principally confined to the second and third person singular of the present tense, of the indicative mood, and to the auxiliaries hast and has of the perfect. The formation of the word third person singular of verbs is now precisely the same as that of the plural number of nouns, as love, loves, show, shows, fly, flies, reach, reaches. This form began to be used about the beginning of the 16th century. However, verbs ending in O, such as do, is written with es termination in third person singular number. Present tense and cry become cries according to rules of spelling. Verbs have modification of four kinds, namely modes, tenses, persons, and numbers. Please subscribe my channel, like and share with your friend.